agencies and panels that will decide who is your primary care provider, because as you may know, one of the provisions of the bill is to do it through what they call alternative providers. And that means that a government panel somewhere will decide that certain portions of the American society can be cared for by unlicensed practitioners, by folks with less education than a physician, and others will in fact get to have that physician. We don't know yet, because it hasn't all been flushed out, exactly who's going to be in charge of doing that, how much that's going to cost, and what that's going to do to your care. But we know that somebody in government will begin to make those decisions if this continues. A survey of practicing physicians over 45 shows that a large percentage of them are now seriously considering retirement, as the new law being burdensome, intervening between their relationship with their patients, but because there's no tort reform, leaving them vulnerable to the ever-present lawsuits and preventing them from taking the steps to prevail themselves of all of our technology to protect their patients. Most see these methods as methods of agencies to deny just compensation for services, and will lead to fewer physicians practicing the more complicated portions of healthcare, decreasing the quality of healthcare overall. So, ladies and gentlemen, I urge you to continue, despite what happened today, to talk with your friends and neighbors, to stay well informed on the issues, and contact your elected officials at all levels to tell them how you feel. This new law is not only deceptively written, but dangerous in its implementation. It will be costly to Americans and our American medical care. It is unconstitutional and should be struck down and replaced with legislation that protects citizens from unfair insurance practices like the pre-existing conditions exclusions and yearly caps. But it should encourage our brightest and best to enter medical care and continue to be the wellspring of innovation that makes the United States of America and its medical care the target for all of the world to try to achieve. Mr. King talked about his responsibility to the state of New Mexico as Attorney General. And I would just encourage Mr. King to remember that the state of New Mexico, as a sovereign state, believes in the Constitution of the United States, and that he should join in a suit anytime he feels there is a law that violates and is outside of that Constitution.
Responsibilities to the state, not to the federal government, to the state.
That's correct. And I think I'm going to be followed by Heather Wilson.
Yay.
Well, thanks to all of you for being here today, and thanks to those of you who walk neighborhoods and pass petitions around in cafeterias and at work and at church to bring the views of the people of New Mexico to the Attorney General for the people of New Mexico. Yesterday, the Congressional Budget Office released a new estimate and additional information about the impact of the health care bill on America and our debts and our ability to create jobs. It added in $115 billion of cost over the first 10 years of this legislation to federal agencies to implement this law in grants and provisions that weren't initially counted in their initial estimate. $115 billion more in the first 10 years of the implementation of this law. You know, when they came out with their initial estimate and said it was going to cost less than $1 trillion in the first 10 years, Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid thought that was just wonderful. But, you know, I don't think that's cause for celebration. Because all of that money, that 7 years worth of taxes and 4 years worth of benefits, is going to be levied on our children and borrowed largely from foreign governments who don't like us very much.
Right.
We are going into massive deficit spending and debt. The debt increased last year by $2 trillion just in last year alone. And over the next 4 years, just the interest on that adjustable rate mortgage that the Congress took out to pass this bill will go from $170 billion a year to $400 billion just in interest.
Wow.